Hey guys, welcome to the Art and Business of Writing podcast, where today I'm joined by the motivational philosopher, Coach MP Mel Jones. Mel Jones is the author of 90, Building the Ultimate Empire, which is out right now on Amazon, where you can get it for, was it $19.99?
Yeah, I think it's 1997 is the exact.
So for $19.97, you can get your copy. And we're going to talk about his book today, kind of his writing strategy, and how he's promoting himself so that you can build your ultimate empire, just like Mel. So Mel, tell us a little bit more about yourself, flesh out the bio, and let's go from there.
Yeah, once again, my name is Mel Jones. I'm the motivational philosopher. Some people know me as Coach MP. I live in Williamsburg, Virginia, graduated from the College of William & Mary in the year 2013, economics degree. Have a 4-year-old son, beautiful boy, real smart. Also live with him and my girlfriend. We all live here in Williamsburg. I played football for William & Mary, was a walk-on, and then ended up getting a scholarship about halfway through, a little past halfway. I was a military kid, so me and my parents and my three younger brothers and sisters, we moved around a lot, from South Korea to Louisiana to Texas to Maryland to Hawaii, all over the place, and we ended up in Virginia. Then about 3 years ago, after I graduated from college, I was still pursuing my dream of going to the NFL. Then I got to this internet marketing company, did a video to promote my affiliation with them, and automatically fell in love with the idea of being a motivational speaker at that particular point. I was already listening to speakers when I was playing football. I came across them like my last year when I was playing football, because I was really in a low point in my life, and people like Eric Thomas and Will Smith, I was watching videos on them. They really brought me up. And then I never really thought about being a speaker myself until I did my first video in 2013, the summer of 2013, and I was like, that's it. That's what I want to do. And I've been following it ever since. And I started writing my book 90, Building the Ultimate Empire. I started writing that back in October of 2015. Took about 9 months to write it. The book's about 300 pages. That still kind of blows my mind sometimes when I think about it, because in college, the biggest paper I wrote was 10 pages. and that seemed like it was ridiculous. I was like, right? Man, how am I going to write a 10-page paper? And then all of a sudden I write a 300-page book, and I'm like, wow, I can't believe I did that. And then some people say I wrote it in a short amount of time too. I don't know, 9 months seems like a long time to me. I guess most people take years to do it. And I'll be coming out with another book soon. I'm also about to start writing in a few weeks, another book, and I'll let y'all know on more on that later.
Yeah, I know all about those papers. I always think about that too when I look at my book, or I look at other things that I've been writing over the years. I'm like, wow, back in 7th or 8th grade, when they're like, hey, write a 1-page paper, man, I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah, 1 page, man. One page took like a week.
I know. So yeah, when you talk about writing a 300-page book, and I think a lot of it comes from motivation. It's just the motivation is different. I don't want to write a 1-page paper about George Washington, but I'm really, really excited about writing a 1-page book. I mean, a 300-page book, though. You know what I mean? You get real motivated.
If it's something that I want to write on, yeah, you definitely makes it a lot easier.
Oh, absolutely. So when you were writing, let's talk about the book. So what were some of the fears and challenges that you faced as you were sitting down trying to write the book? What was going through your mind?
Well, I didn't really start to feel any fears until probably the last third of it. So the first beginning was just start, and that part was pretty easy. I got my outline. I pretty much knew what I already wanted to write about. Had each chapter already laid out. The first idea was to try to write the 90 chapters in 90 days. That failed, obviously, because of what life happens to you. But I never stopped writing. I just wasn't writing as efficiently or as quickly as I intended to. So in the beginning, it was wasn't necessarily tough to find the time, but it was tough to find the mind state that I needed to be in because of things that were going on, and in the those first few months especially. Some things that were going on in just, life in general. So it was trying to get to that mindset to actually down write it. But then, like I said, I was writing, I started getting, I had my grooves. I would go a few months in the groove, then I might go a few weeks, not write nothing, then, or probably no longer than a week. I probably go no longer than a week without writing anything. And then I get back into a groove again, And it wasn't until about the last, like 20 chapters when I started to think. I was like, and that's when I was like really just pounding away at that moment. I wrote like the last 20 chapters in 1 week. And as I was writing, I was like, man, what if I finish and then nobody reads this? Or what if, I don't sell any? Or what if it's like just terrible or whatever? So that's when the fears started to come in. When you like start to get to the end, you're like, what if I wrote all this information and nobody reads it? Or and people don't like it or whatever. So that's when the fears come in.
Oh, I know. That's a very, very common thing among writers. You're like, you finish the book, you're like, okay, I got it out there, and you sit there, and sometimes, you watch, like, first week you're watching Amazon to see if anything moves. You're like, man, okay, nothing's moving. And you get one sale, you get excited, and it's like, okay. But yeah, it's one of the most, recurring fears for writers is, what if no one reads my book? But I mean, you've been doing great. You've been doing some promotional things. You've been out doing book signings, and we'll talk about that later. But I love what you're doing with the book, though. I love that you're on social media, you're making things happen, and hey, I think a lot of the fear is removed by action.
Yeah, the more action you take, the more desensitized you become. I mean, I pushed it so far where I actually even go door to door sometimes and sell my book. So I'll just knock on doors for a couple hours and sell it, and people do buy it.
Wow. Yeah. Well, we'll get to that. I want to hear more about that. Now, what does no one tell you about writing? Like when you sit down to write a book, because you think, you've got a collection of books yourself. You're flipping through it, and it's like, wow, books are awesome. But what does no one tell you about just the art of sitting down and trying to write a book?
Well, writing a book is not like writing a paper in school. I will tell you that. So all the rules that they teach you in school kind of just go out the window a little bit when you're writing a book. It's and this is like one thing I can actually attribute to college that I would say, like, if you want to learn anything in college that you can actually use in the real world, writing is one of those things. Because when you get to college, they kind of throw out those rules too that you learned in high school. The thesis, you got your thesis. I mean, you still kind of want your thesis for the most part, but the idea of the thesis, your 3 points and your 3 paragraphs, and like you got to follow the structure. Man, when you get to college, it's just what are you trying to convey, and then convey it, and then get your point across, and just stick to the points. And that's pretty much writing a book. It's kind of like if you're writing something like a motivational book, like when I'm writing, like you want to stick to the points. Now, if you get into fiction, that's a little bit different. Now, I've read a few fiction books that are on the self-development side, and that's even a whole nother world where you got to create this imagery. You got to create this, these vast lands and pictures, but at the same time, you still got to stick to the point. So, I mean, when it comes to writing a book, I feel like no one can teach you how to write a book. I think you just got to write it and figure it out as you're going along.
Yeah, I definitely feel that same process. You really have to write to yourself. Okay, what do I need to say? How do I need to say it? And really structure it that way. Because when you start thinking about audiences and writing to audiences, it really it definitely muddies the water a little bit, because you're like, okay, well, how's that going to go over? How's that going to translate? But when you actually sit down and write the book almost for yourself, it becomes a much different process.
Well, yeah, I wrote it for myself first. So I wrote each chapter. I just wrote it. Like, I didn't even go back and edit it. I just wrote it.
Yeah.
And I wrote it purely whatever was in my thought. And then when I finished the book, then I went back chapter by chapter and broke it down. Was like, did I come across clear in this chapter? Will the people understand it? Will it make sense? Or do they understand what I'm saying? That way, I diffuse that problem of getting stuck trying to figure out, am I saying the right thing when I'm saying? Like, I just say it first. Write it down so you say it, and then go back and try to figure out, did you say it right?
Right. Now let's get into it. So 90, what's the mindset behind the title 90?
Well, it's a 90-chapter book that you can read in 90 days. It's 2 to 3 pages per chapter. It takes about 5 minutes at the most to read each chapter. And the reason why I just chose the term 90 just to catch attention, capture people's attention. I mean, I'm big on. So when you get deeper into my website, into who and what I represent, it's not just motivation to work hard. It's motivation to think. That's why I'm a motivational philosopher. Philosophers do what? They think.
Right.
So I'm motivating people to think deeply. And one of those thoughts that I thought deeply about with my book is, how do I capture the attention of other people when nobody really knows who I am or knows me as an author? So Seth Godin, he has a book called Poke the Box. And on the cover of his book, there's no title. There's just a picture of some like little cartoonish man on there, right? So the idea was that the reason why he did that is because every other book you find has a title on it. She's like, well, let me just make a book. Since I'm selling it on Amazon anyway, it's going to say the title on Amazon. Let me just put a book and put a picture on it, so that people will want to know, they'll pick it up, like, hey, what's this book? There's no title on it. So they'll pick the book up automatically. So I kind of stole that idea, or borrowed it, and said, all right, well, 90 kind of is the title of the book anyway, but let me I'll put a big 90 on the front. And then at the same time, life to me is like a matrix, right? It's a matrix. There's formulas. There's way to look at the world. And if the more that you are an expert at something, the easier it is for you to read things in that particular industry, whether it's people, whether it's, facts and figures or whatever it is. The more you're expert, the more you can read it. So I put the 9s and the 0s all on the cover, like to look like the matrix, like a bunch of 0s and 1s that you would see in the matrix.
Right.
So that was the idea, just to capture, just to it would play with your imagination when you looked at the book, even if I didn't tell you what the book was. You just looked at it and you was like, what is this book? It's just capturing your imagination and kind of takes you into a place without me ever telling you anything.
Now, when we break that, when we get inside the book, you talk about how, it takes 90 days to create a new habit. And that correlates with the 90 chapters. So with the 90 chapters, is it a start to finish approach, or is it a read as I choose approach? Like, what's the best way to really delve into the book and dive into each chapter and put it to practice?
I personally, I'm reading my book right now. So I read one chapter a day. Every once in a while, I might miss a day accidentally, but I'm always reading something else, though, so it's not a big deal for me. But typically, I would say read it one chapter, a day, each day for the first 90 days. Now, if you want to read it as you go, here and there, that's cool, too, because it makes it easy, because you can always pick up where you left off, because the chapters are so small. You're never going to start a chapter and not finish it, because it's 2 or 3 pages. So you'll finish the chapter and you can go a week without looking at it again. You can go a month without looking at it and pick up the next chapter. It doesn't matter, because that chapter stands alone. Every chapter stands on its own 2 feet. You don't need to know anything else about the book.
Yeah. Now, and what I like about the book is that you got some very provocative titles. When you flip through the book, it'll say your ego, your problem. It's like, oh, what's that all about? So I like the way that you do the lead-ins to each of these chapters.
Yeah, preparation H is the one that usually gets people.
Yeah. Now you've done a good job with that, just kind of breaking it down and making it interesting to read. So let's talk about how you wrote. Like you talked about, you tried to write it all, in 90 days. That didn't work. You did it in, you said 9 months.
Yeah.
What were some of the tools? Were you writing kind of just strictly at your computer? Were you writing on your phone? Were you writing on an iPad? Were you writing in notebooks? What was your writing process like, just so that you could hammer away and get the book done?
Well, I was writing on my laptop, and every time I would sit down to write, I would try not to think. I don't know if you ever see, what's that? There's a movie, I think it might be called Forrest Whitaker, maybe, and it's about this basketball player who's a brilliant writer. Oh,
Finding Forrester.
Finding Forrester. There
yes.
You go. Why did I say Forrest Whitaker? That's an actor.
Yeah.
Finding Forrester, right?
Yeah.
So Finding Forrester, the kid, he's the black kid, he's a brilliant student, a brilliant writer. He just hasn't tapped into it yet, right? So then the author guy, he like teaches him how to write, and he says the first step, just write, don't think, just write. And I actually thought about that as I was writing my book. I was like, all right, every time you sit down, when you sit down, since I already knew the chapters were going to be kind of short, I said, don't think about it, just write. You don't have to plan it out. You already know what the title is. Just sit down, just write, and finish each chapter. So you might go a week without writing, Mel, but once you decide to sit down and write, you write until the chapter is done, and then you can get up. So that's how I would always do it. I would always sit down until the chapter was done, and then I would get up, and I'd always just write. I would try not to even think. I would try to just let it flow. And sometimes I'd be writing, I'd be like, this does not make sense. I'm not really feeling it, but just keep writing, just keep writing, just keep writing. And then at the end, sometimes it might unfold to make sense, or I might have to go back and fix some stuff. But either way, I was like, just write it, and then you can fix it later.
Yeah, that's a technique that I call priming the pump. When you're those old wells you have like in the backyard in the country, and you have to pump the water out. Yeah, it's like that's how it's like sometimes when you're sitting down, you're writing, and stuff's not coming. But after you keep going for a while, all of a sudden the good stuff starts to show up, just like all the dirty water comes out before the clean water comes out.
Well, yeah, it's like Malcolm Gladwell. I heard on a podcast, and he was talking about how, when you're writing for the New York Times or a big paper, you don't have writer's block.
No, you don't.
You don't exist. You got to get it done.
Yes.
So that's how I treated myself. I was like, look, you don't have writer's block. Just do it.
Yes, sir. Now, do you have like a designated writing spot? Do you have a place that you enjoy to write from? Like, do you have like a home office, or do you like to go out to write in public, or how do you like to write?
I typically like to be alone when I'm writing. I've done it with my son around making noise too. Like I said, typically I like to be at home. For me, there's no very particular way that I have to write or particular setting. It's just once I choose a setting to start the writing, I kind of get into that rhythm, I kind of want to go back to that same setting, wherever I started originally. So it might be downstairs, might be upstairs, might be, out somewhere, might be like, at a computer lab or something, I don't know, Starbucks. But if I decided, if I just happen to start writing some project there, then I kind of want to keep going back to that same place. But I've also trained my mind to accept that wherever you're going to write, just write it. Like you might feel uncomfortable being in this new setting, but do it anyway. Because that's how I treat my speaking. It's like no matter who you're speaking to, no matter who you're motivating, just do it. Just motivate them. Be ready at all times. Whatever video you're doing, just do it. Whatever podcast you're doing, just do it. So I've trained my mind to accept whatever the conditions are.
Is that something that you include in the book too?
I probably don't say it in that particular way.
But that philosophy of just training your mind to be flexible.
Yes, that's definitely in the book. The whole idea of the book is to make you think 90 different ways about pretty much the same thing, which is the reason why you should build the ultimate empire. In other words, build your dreams. I'm giving you 90 different ways to think about it so that you are always flexible.
Yeah. And I think that's the best part about books like yours is, like you talked about, it standing on its own 2 feet. It's like it's also the ultimate reference book, because then anytime I want to reference something, or I need a little kick in the pants, or I need to reference something that I'm working on, I need to change, I can just pick up a chapter. I don't have to go looking for it. I know, okay, in chapter 66, Mel said to do this. Or, I remember that from chapter 45. So I think that structure definitely helps when you talk about using it as a reference book.
Yeah, I use it for myself, and as I read each chapter, a lot of times I'll pick up a chapter and be like, and I can automatically put it into a part of my life where this makes sense, where this is relevant right now.
Yeah, exactly. And I wish that a lot more, more self-help books had that style of being a reference type book where I can just pick it up and thumb through and shoot from the hip. I want to work on this today. Bam, I'm going to check out this chapter. I'm going to work from that today. Bam, I'm going to check out that chapter. But I think it's all relevant. Now let's talk about the business side. Let's talk about how you're promoting. What have you been doing to get the word out about 90, to get people interested in the book, getting people buying the book, getting people reading the book?
Well, I've been doing everything that a human being possibly can do. and to the point to where I'm doing the book signings, even though the Barnes and Noble is really not supposed to accept my book for book signing because since I self-published it, there's no like refund ability when they buy it.
Yeah.
But the way that I come across, and I'm so, like willing to talk to people and have this positive energy, they took a chance on me anyway and said, well, there's a good chance he's probably gonna sell the books anyway. And I did. I sold all of them twice on 2 book signings with them. So, I convinced them to let me do that. I mean, I'm always on social media. Every time someone buys a book, I make sure I post it up, show people. I've texted people on my phone, everybody on my phone, about the book. Like I put like a really compelling copy, put like a picture up. I went on Fiverr.com to have somebody create like a little banner for me with the book, so it looks real professional. Like, here's my book. Here you go to Amazon and stuff like that. So that's on my website. That's on a blog. That's on text. That's on like my email people and stuff. And then I said all the social media platforms. And then the last part is I knock door to door, and I'll spend like 2 to 3 hours doing that and sell about 5 or 6 books, and make a little over $100 a day just doing that.
Dude, I love it. I love how tenacious you are about getting this book out. And I want to go over some of these ideas. So let's start from the top. So you talked about book signings, and something you said that you did that I think that needs to be really stated strongly is you convinced them. Like, it wasn't like, hey, can I do a book signing? They say no, and you're like, okay, well, Barnes & Noble doesn't want my book. You convinced them. How did you convince them to take you on? Not, like I said, not once, but twice. What did you do, like, to get them to do that for you?
Well, I always feel, like when I was in college, so sometimes girls would not dress up on like regular days, right? Because on a weekday, they'd be looking all bummy or something, And then the guys asked, like, why are you, dressed like that? And she was like, well, I have no one to impress, right? So, but I always felt like, well, you never know who you're going to run into, though. You never know who you're going to meet. So I treat every day, since I decided to become a motivational speaker and I decided that's how it's going to be, every day I walk around and act like I am exactly who I want to be. Like I'm already a world-class traveling motivational speaker. So I've gone to Barnes & Noble's hundreds of times, and they've seen me hundreds of times. And I say hi to them, and I have this confidence, I have this walk, and I always project like I'm someone of importance, someone who's already successful. So when I went and asked them, I just went in one day because after I had published a book, I was walking by. I was like, yeah, let me go to Barnes & Noble's real quick. And I went in there, and I was like, I talked to the manager, and I went to the manager. I was like, can I do a book signing? And then they started like, they looked up the book and stuff. I brought the book in with me so that they could see like this thing actually exists. Here's a physical copy of it. And then just the fact that I was willing to go and talk to them about it, I had this confidence when I told them about it. They didn't even question it. It was like, yeah, there's no like refund thing, but we see you in here all the time. We'll buy like 10 books and see how it goes. So then I made it my mission. When I got the opportunity, I was like, I'm gonna make sure I sell every book in that 4-hour span. So when I came in, I sold like 9 out of the 10 books. And so then they was like, so I was like, hey, can we do the book signing? I was like, yeah, sure. Because none of the other authors, when they come in there, almost like they never sell even that many books. So I've done way over what the average author does when they come there, who I guess is not really known. And so it's a good investment for them. I made it worth their while.
Love it. So if you guys are listening, take that advice, man. Go to the Barnes & Noble, go to the bookstores near you, speak to the people, speak to the managers. You have nothing to lose from a conversation. Nothing at all to lose. And like you said, like Mel said, make it worth their while. Come with a presentation, make it fun. I mean, I saw some of your photos on social media where you guys are having a good time at the book signing. You guys are, into some shenanigans during the book signing. So I think people, you got to make it fun. It's your book. It's your career. Get out there and make that happen. Now, second,
you got it.
Huh?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, secondly, you talked about using social media. What social media channels are you using, and what have you been doing?
I use Facebook. I use my personal page. I have a fan page as well. I use Snapchat. I use Twitter, and I use Instagram, and I also do videos on YouTube. But those are the social media platforms. That's what I use on a daily basis. And I try to, so like through Snapchat, I'll do like a video, a quick 10-second, snap. I might give some motivational. I might be working out or something. Or I might show my book, promoting the book. And I will, post that on a snap. But then since I'm able to save it on my phone, I can save it. Then I'll post that. I'll post that same snap on Facebook. And then I'll post it on my Facebook fan page as well. So my personal and my fan page. Then I'll go to my Instagram and I'll post something, separate on the Instagram account. And then since there's stories now on the Instagram, I'll also put up a story as well. And then I'll also, I might go on a few other big accounts that have over 100,000 motivational accounts, and I'll chime in some motivational stuff onto their post, just so people can see and read, and I be involved in the community. And then I'll do some Twitter stuff where I'll retweet people who are following me. Thanks for following me. Then I'll retweet people who just put up some motivational stuff on Twitter. And then I have, like I said, I have my banner, which is on my Twitter, so they can still, if then they see that and they like my tweet because I retweeted them, they might look at my banner on Twitter and see the book there. I got my banner on my fan page on Facebook. So I mean, I'm in constant promotion zone, constantly promoting. Every move that I make on social media is for the goal of promotion, getting my name out there. And because there's a lot of people who go weeks and months looking at my stuff, and then one day they decide to buy my book, only because I kept promoting.
Well, that's classic advertising. They say there's that's seven touches starts to get people to take notice of you. And you're out there pushing it, 10, 12 times a day. I've seen your stuff on all the channels that I follow you on too, just pushing. Like it's like a social blitzkrieg. So I'm always seeing your stuff, which is a good thing.
Yeah, it's more like 90 touches, I think.
Is it not?
It's like 90 touches. They say 7 touches, but it feels like you got to do like 90.
Yeah.
Man, I post so much, and it takes a minute sometimes for people to say, you know what, I'm gonna get that book.
Oh yeah. Now, you talked about texting people on the phone. How'd you come across that idea, and how's it worked for you?
Well, I first did it with my fitness gear, and that worked pretty well when I was doing that. I mean, and texting is like the new email. That's what, email used to be a thing. People used to actually open up their emails. They really don't open them up too much now. But everybody opens up their texts. So, I mean, I just treat it like an email. So I text it like an email. So it's like there's this compelling copy. Like I put, a beginning, a middle, and end. I'm promoting the book. I'm giving maybe a little background story, or I'm saying something that'll, capture their attention when they read it. Plus, I put my little banner, my little picture that I had made with it as well. So if they like to look at pictures and stuff, then they can just look at the picture and pretty much figure out what the book's about. If they want to read more into what this thing is I just sent them, then they can read the text. So I give them those two options in that text message. And I have a whole bunch of contacts. I mean, to me, it's like whatever avenue you can get to people, use it. So I just use it.
Yeah, dude. WIT, whatever it takes. Now,
yes,
with the text messaging, do you use a text messaging service? Is there some sort of service that you use, or some for-fee service or free service, or?
I use I just use my own two thumbs, man.
Oh, okay. I didn't know. I
just go down my contact list, and right. I'm just texting away. There's no cool, magical, no strategic service. But I actually probably need to look into using a texting service, find one. But at the moment, no. I just go. It's like I'm going door to door. I go contact to contact.
Nice. Now the concept of going door to door, man. I remember back in even still people do it. But I remember, a few years ago, people would pop open the trunks. Man, you see them walk through the shops and they're selling CDs, man, and it works. It definitely works. So how did you come up with that strategy of going door to door? What prompted that?
Well, since I stopped being, I was a personal trainer for a few years, and since I stopped personal training, I don't have nearly as much money coming in on a regular like I used to. So I just got to the point where I was like, I was working on my business, working on my brand. I was like, but I need some more money right now. What's the quick? I can promote all I want, but what's the quickest way for me to get money right now in my hands today? And then I decided, like, I gotta go door to door. I've been thought it was like a emergency plan in the back of my mind anyway. But then I realized it's like I gotta do it. I gotta go do it right now. I need some money right now. So that's what prompted me to go door to door. And I mean, to me, I learned sales when I was a personal trainer. So I was the number one trainer because I was the number one salesman, pretty much. So I learned how to talk to people and how to like come up with like a little script. So I came up with a script and I just tweaked it the first day or two until I found something that worked pretty well for the general public. And the way I look at it, I mean, I've lived in the same apartment for about, I don't know, 6-7 years. I think I've only had one person ever knock on my door selling something. So that, to me right there, I was like, you know what? No one is really selling door to door. Like, I know that used to be a thing, but no one does that. And we have social media, so why would they do it? No one does door to door. So then I decided I'm going to do it because no one else is doing it. I have no competition.
No, but that's a smart approach, because if someone opens the door, dude, that's it, man. It's do or die. You got a shot at making the sale, and it's all about you at that point. Whereas social media, everybody looks at it, but not everybody's going to touch it. You know what I mean? So right. I think that whole, book selling, I think, and I tell authors all the time, you've got to get that face-to-face interaction, man, because that's where the sales happen. The face-to-face is always going to be the strongest possible way to get a sale. So whether it's door-to-door like you're doing, whether it's doing the book signings, whether it's using your book to speak to people, or mailing it out to people who are influential, or whatever you do, it's always about that one-on-one interaction with the customer. That's what's going to convert the most sales.
Yeah, the greatest salesman will win, and that's whether you're in music or whether you're writing, painting, building any type of business, any type of brand. It's all about salesmanship, and there's different techniques and different ways to go about it and different ways of interacting with people. And some people get lucky. Sometimes you don't have to do a whole lot of interaction. People just pick up on your stuff and boom, you just take off. That rarely happens. So I go into the mentality that not only am I part of the people who rarely happens to, but I'm actually the underdog. Like, most likely it's not going to happen to me. That's how I approach branding. That's how I approach my life. That's how I approach my book. Like, imagine as if nobody wants to read your book at all. And that's how I approach it every day, that I got to convince everyone to read it.
There you go. There you have it. So, Mel, we're coming in for a landing. Why don't you share just a couple nuggets of wisdom from your book with our readers?
Yeah, so I'll talk about the chapter I read today. It was called Alone I Stand. I think it's like chapter 53. And in this chapter, I forgot I had even written this chapter. I'm talking about how in order to be a champion, and in the beginning I'm talking about you could be a stay-at-home mom, and your arena is the home. But you want to be the best mom in the world. Like, you want to create like a castle. Like, you want to create this like wonderland inside your home for your family, right? So to be a champion in your home, to be on that level, you have to stand alone, meaning you have to be willing to do and go places that other people won't typically go, which means you'll be in the dark, which means, you have to go through the struggle on your own, because most people are not going to even be able to resonate or even connect with you on that level, even other stay-at-home moms, because they're not going to push themselves to the same lengths and depths that you're willing to push yourself. So you got to stand alone in that sense if you want to be a champion, if you want to be the best in any arena. And then I go even deeper where I talk about how this works is that the world, if you imagine the world is a bunch of sheep, a bunch of people, we're all sheep, right? Most people are sheep. We're all kind of just following the herd, just doing our thing. And then you got, every once in a while, you have a wolf who's in sheep's clothing. Those are the people who try to take advantage of the sheep, right? Those people we want to try to avoid. And then you have the sheep dogs. Those are the leaders of the sheep. Those are like the managers at a store or something like that, right? So they still got sheep in their name, what we just call them sheepdog, that dog means that it gives them a little bit more of a status, but they still kind of follow the status quo, and they still, without the sheep, they feel lost. So they still need the sheep. And then you have the shepherd, and that's where the champion is, right? And the shepherd doesn't have to have some crazy job or be a superstar celebrity. The shepherd just has to be in control of their own destiny. And the shepherd typically, in this analogy, is like the business owner. It's the entrepreneur. You're the one who's you're protecting all your sheep, all your employees, all your assets, right? And you got your sheepdogs. Those are your leaders that you acquire over time. And you got to protect your assets and your managers from the wolves that are disguised as sheep, right?
Right.
And so that's the nugget I want you to leave, is that if you want to be a shepherd, if you want to be a champion, if you want to be the best, if you want to be in charge of your own destiny, if you want to be out front, you have to stand alone, because the shepherd is the shepherd. The shepherd's by himself. He doesn't feel like he's part of the sheep. The sheep don't feel like they're one with the shepherd. He's not the sheepdog is closer to the shepherd than the sheep are. But at the end of the day, the shepherd is by himself. He can't really communicate with other people the way he could communicate with like another shepherd. He can't communicate with the sheep on the same level he can communicate with other shepherds. So understand, if you're trying to go to the top, the sheep, the regular people, are not going to necessarily understand that language that you're trying to speak. So if you're trying to promote a best-selling book, understand that, hey, if no one knows who you are already, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. You're trying to go to such a high level when you're at this sheep level right now.
Nice. Now let our audience know how they can reach you on social media or any way that you like to be reached.
The easiest way, I think, is through Instagram at Motivational Philosopher. And you can catch all my material and information on motivationalphilosopher.com or at my motivational company's website, which is gripworkgear.com.
Awesome. You have been with Mel Jones, author of 90 Building the Ultimate Empire. Definitely check him out online, follow him on social media, and get his book on Amazon, 90 Days to Make 90 Changes. Mel, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Chris. I really appreciate it.
All right, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. You have a great day.
You too.